Jesus and the multiverse, a human man, but also God. That is what we're going to be talking about, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm just going to need you to, this is a disclaimer. I'm not going to say it 100 times. If you're not ready, skip along, because I'm about to give you guys my opinion about this, why I believe Jesus is God, how I believe this factors into the concept of the multiverse, how I believe this concept factors into the importance of us seeing him both as man and God, all in this video. And this is a part 2 where I just did a breakdown of my spiritual and scientific explanation for the concept of the multiverse and how I think it actually means. So that'll be the last video in this, linked in the description box below in the playlist. I'm doing a greater playlist, which started with me asking God, the questions like, if God is real, why is there evil in the world? These are the questions people have. So this whole series is to dispel that. So we're like 30 plus videos, I think, by now into that series. We've talked about so much. We've talked about, from so many angles. And now we have a bit of a more scientific angle. So go and check out the video before if you want to hear my breakdown of the multiverse with the bubble theory, and why I say that, why it actually kind of adds up with what God was showing me and what that has to do with free will. And we're going to talk about Christ here, because I believe that that Jesus, the reason why this is the universe we're living in, as I said in my previous video, if you've been watching, is that this is the only universe we're living in is the only universe where human beings won. And the only reason human beings won is because Jesus won. Because Jesus, or as I mentioned, he made every single right decision the entire time. And the only reason it was possible for him to do that is because he is God. But the only way he could do that was by being a man. So just to summarize what I was saying before, so that we can delve deeper into this, because as I said to you guys, I believe that it makes sense for me that Jesus is God in the third dimension, you know what I mean? As in the dimensions, as the dimensions get greater and greater, they become more complicated. Hence why in our dimension, it's everything we can see, touch, feel, taste, hear, things that are based off of our senses. And it's 3-dimensional, right? You have your your x-axis, your y-axis, and your z or z-axis, right? Like making like a corner kind of vibe, right? And those are the 3 dimensions. So going into the 4th dimension, it's like, it's something that's hard to even conceptualize. But what's that thing called? That's the like 4-dimensional cube, and it's in one of these Marvel movies. Oh, I can't remember. Anyways, also just on a side note, I don't know if a lot of people realize, but science fiction is actually science's way of repackaging, adding spiritual aspects to science, because they can't call it science. I always mention this. I find it fascinating, the phrase science fiction as a whole, because it's like, how can it be a science and a fiction? Surely those two things don't agree with each other. But that's their way of saying, well, if you wanted to add some science to fiction, this is how it could happen, which again goes back to my theory of the multiverses, which is that every universe is just they're all overlaps of different possibilities of what could have happened throughout all of human history, based on all the options of every single way us as humans, every single choice we could have made, every single option that we had, every single thing we've ever done has its own universe. And each universe is built up of all those areas where they overlap together and they all form their own bubbles. So that's why this universe we're in is just the combination of there's steps I'm going to take in my free will in this universe within the multiverse that is going to lead me down a specific path. And in this universe, this is the universe where whatever we're all doing, everything that happens, this is the universe where we know. This is why it's written. That's why I understand when they say it's written, when the Bible talks about it's written. How can things be written? How can we have free will? These are questions people ask God, like, how can you have free will? And then this is what happens when I spend time with God, you guys. So I don't want to be around here, because I'm here with the Lord and I'm in the heavenlies. I'm like, God, why do I have to come down? And so I want to go and be in my castle in Antarctica. But anyways, right? In this universe, this is the one where, where we all overlap in this one, and this is the winning one. Why is this the winning one? Well, let's talk about Jesus for a second. Because Jesus, again, being man and God, and this is the simplest reason for why I believe Jesus is God, is one thing alone. I know that us as humans do not possess the ability to get everything right the first time. So like I said, when Adam and Eve were given the options, God is telling them, like, if you in this choice right now, if you eat this fruit and you choose knowledge, you choose to think that you're going to make the right decision every single moment of your life, you're going to make the good decision every single moment of your life, you're wrong. If you think that access to the knowledge of all the options you have is going to lead to life, it's never going to. But you have the choice. I'm just telling you that in this universe, if you choose to eat that fruit, this is the universe where you guys end up in death, right? Here's the story with that. That's what happens in every universe. In every universe, that was going to happen. Unless there was a universe where at least one human being could go against all of that, right? For the sake of the universe. Because otherwise, everybody's net, what do you call it? Actions would be negative, evil, or just the wrong path. Because like I said, our free will, it's like being in Sims game or in a lot of games where you get given like your character and you can do 5 or 6 different things. All of us are all, like I described, as like trees where all of these options are different branches, and we're all like in a forest, right? And all the multiverses are all the parts where the branches overlap, where my decision to do this and your decision to do that, they overlap at a certain point, which creates a 2-dimensional sphere, a 2-dimensional circle. And then because we're all in the forest and we're all in there all together because we're all humans, and all those little circles come together, it forms a sphere, hence the bubbles in the multiverse. That's what my theory is, guys. It's just my working theory. Listen, it's not even been 24 hours because this was me with the Lord at like 2 a.m. So it's not even been 12 hours. This is me and the Lord at like 2, 3 a.m. having this good discussion out in nature again when everybody was asleep, because this is when I can think clearly, because it's like when we're all like the 3-dimensional is too busy being when everybody's awake or people are talking to me, and I hate it when everybody's asleep and it's quiet and I'm just out in nature and I'm just listening to God. And I was listening to this very beautiful song and I was just like, wow. And it just all hit me, like all this stuff that I'm talking to you guys about, right? So Jesus has to be, so there has to be a human, like because the point is, if we choose the wrong path and we choose wrongly, then we've chosen hell. Like I've said this to you guys before, I don't believe God sends us to hell. I believe we choose hell in our actions. We choose it. We make decisions that lead us there. So us all blaming God, like, God, how could you do this? How could you do this? It's like, how could you? How could you, or who are we to turn around and look at God for anything he's doing when we're the ones who are orchestrating our own lives? We're the ones with free will. He gave us dominion. So this is where I think people don't give Jesus enough credit, because Jesus is basically, and also the Holy Spirit, we'll come to the Holy Spirit afterwards, but like Jesus making all these choices, he was still very much a human. He was still like any of us, that in every given moment, even right now as I'm speaking to you guys, we're all operating within our free will 100% of the time. Me and all the words that are leaving my mouth, whether it comes from the Lord, whether it comes from the devil, whether it comes from me, whatever it is, how I choose to deliver it, the words I choose to use, everything about it's all my choice how we're here, right? Your choice to listen, your choice to click off the video in this second, or maybe click off the video in 20 seconds, or click off the video in an hour, or not even have made it this far, or never have seen the video, or watch the video 20 times. There's a universe in which all those things happened. That's what I'm saying, right? There's a universe, and in this universe is the winning universe, right? So in this universe that we're in is the universe where Jesus is the one who said, you know what? He had to make that choice of doing everything right. Right? And he made the choice. He made the choice. Because why? The only way he could is because he was God. Hence why when he dies, he's like, okay, I'll bring the Spirit of God here through me as a human. I'll do everything right? And then I'll die, so that this spirit can now exist for you guys here, because you guys turned it away all the time before when you decided to choose knowledge over life itself. Because just like how the spirit, even the Hebrew words for spirit, some of them is like breath, the same way that God breathed into us life. He took from the ground and he modeled them, the human, and made them, and then he breathed life into us. It's the same way that the spirit of life itself, the Spirit of God, because Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. The only way to the Father is through me. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am showing the way. This is the exact coordinates. This is the exact GPS pathway to get everything right. Exactly what I'm doing is exactly how it's supposed to be done. Exactly. And that's what's crazy about it. So it doesn't surprise me, that's why I know that Jesus has to be God. And this is why, again, the devil he doesn't need to get us on the wrong entire. He doesn't need us, like, it's not like he's not, say we're like a ship and we need to go over a bearing of 270 degrees east, right? His job isn't to try and get us to go 180 degrees west. His job is to get us to go 270.0000000000000000000000001 degrees east. Just enough off, just a little bit off, because at first that doesn't seem like enough. But if that boat goes for long enough, so the mathematician part of my brain comes into it, for long enough, after a significant enough amount of time, that tiny portion of being off is going to be enough that you're gone on a different pathway. As if that was the trajectory and you were supposed to say at 270 degrees for the next 200,000 miles, let's say, nautical miles, is that what they call them? Right? Then at first, if you are only going 10 miles away, that might not seem like that much. You might just have to do a little turn back on the way. If you're going to that small little tiny little thing that seems so small is going to take you all the way off the right path. And that's exactly why I believe that in Hebrew, the word chet, which is sin, it means to miss the mark, to lose focus, to veer off the right path, to just be ever so slightly off. And like I said, it doesn't feel like a big deal to us as humans in the moment, because we're the classic of, oh, well, it's good enough. Compromise. This is the devil is the absolute king of, right? This is why he gets us to compromise. And I say selling your soul is compromise. If you are allowing yourself something to overcome you, this is why fear of God is so important, because then the fear of God says you will not compromise at all on the things of the good and godly. The devil's like, oh, well, it's not really that big of a deal. Like with Christ, that's my point. And this is why I'm giving you guys this description of people will accept Christ. Yes, we believe he's there. Historically, he was there. Do we believe he was a prophet? Yes. Do we believe that he came to do good things? Yes. Do we believe that he died? Yes. But was he God? Was he the Messiah? Was he resurrected? Those are the problems we have. And they don't seem like that big of a deal because we're humans and we think like humans. And so we think we know what we're talking about. And God's like, that's the most fundamental thing, because that's the one thing ain't none of you able to do in any of the universes was save yourselves. No version of reality, no version of any of those other universes where Jesus isn't there and God doesn't come as a human. Does that happen? Because there's probably other multiverses, right? Because even Mary, where she said no. She was like, nah, can't be me, bro. Can't be me. Those other multiverses, maybe where Mary was a prostitute. People don't think about it like that because everyone wants to think so well of themselves. But I often think to myself that, as a human, I'm capable of literally anything. I'm capable of becoming anything. Even just because I'm not doing something doesn't mean I can't. Just because I'm not going to go and kill somebody doesn't negate the fact I have the possibility that I can actually do such. It doesn't change the fact that there's not a set of things that could have happened in my life that put me on that path. Because again, as we all see when you watch these like documentaries, like these true crime documentaries about serial killers and stuff, like I've never heard of one where they grew up in a loving family and everything was good and Christian dandy, and then they just woke up a serial killer. They've always been through the worst of lives. It's like when I work with kids, the way that they turn out, the odds were stacked against them. And again, even for us now, it's like this is the choice always, is that with Christ, we get to have a second chances and we get to say, okay, I messed up, but I'm going to receive Christ. I'm going to receive that God did this, and I'm going to believe that God did this, because if I believe in that, that means I'm understanding that me alone would have messed this whole thing up. Us alone as humans mess it up every single time. Every time. And that's why God's like, you know that you must receive Christ, because how dare you try to think you have any reason, you don't choose me. You people, you're adulterous. You're always running off with other gods. You're always running off focused on other things. Even when they talk to me, like, I'm one of my favorite men of God, he said, some of you, all you pray for is bill and bills. You're praying for the Lord to send you bill, and you're praying to the Lord about your bills. That's all you pray to the Lord for. So many Christians are like that. You're praying for what you want, what you need, your needs, your this, you're you focused. And I've said it to you guys before. There's three kinds of relationships, and they have three destinations. Well, only two destinations regardless. Yeah? It's a relationship between two selfish people, right? And I'm saying relationships, I'm talking about all kinds of relationships, friendships, family, romantic relationships, all types of relationships, even just your colleagues at work, your acquaintances. But obviously, we may have relationships in groups, but technically your relationship is with that individual person, right? In any relationship, if you've got two selfish people, the selfish, it doesn't work, because eventually you both are doing what's best for you, you're not collaborative. So that's going to end in chaos. It's going to end in division, right? You have, which again, it's ironic that, God created man and woman to become one together, not divided, but united. And yet we're like so divided. We now live in a world where even I would consider men to be a complete and total, utter mystery to me. But it's like God is like, but I created you guys to like be so compatible and everything, and we now live in a world where it's like we don't even understand each other. I feel guilty for having a womb. It's crazy. And you have two selfish people, then you end up separated, division, right? You have a selfish person, a selfless person in a relationship. The selfish person always wins, but then the relationship never lasts because the selfless person gets to the point where it's just too much, or the selfish person, moves on to somebody else because the person that they're being selfish with can no longer take it anymore, and they can no longer provide, and therefore they're going to go where they can get what they're looking for. Now, the only person who's immune to that is God, hence why that's the relationship we have with him, where he's consistently always doing whatever regardless, because even though we're the selfish ones and he's the selfless one, he's the only one who can handle that no matter what, because he's God and he is love. He is the full epitome and the full expression of love itself. He is love in himself. That is who he is. But as humans, it doesn't work because we have a capability, a capacity. We have a maximum potential energy. I talked about this in the last couple of videos. And then we have a relationship with two selfless people, and that creates unity, that creates intimacy, that creates power, right? And so when Christ has come, right, a lot of people's relationship with God and with him is, like I said, the middle one. The only way there's winning for the people overall is in the one where everybody's thinking of, like when Jesus came, what did he say? The Pharisees like, so what's the most two important, most commandments? All pridefully there, feeling good because they are being appreciated and they are being worshipped and they know better than everybody else, and they on the Sabbath don't walk more than 2 miles, and they don't just tithe their money, they give 10% of their herbs and spices as well. I talk about this in the Bible playlist, by the way, where I summarize the entire Bible. It's also linked in the description box. And Jesus is like, well, the two most important scriptures are to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, body, soul, and strength. Do your best with the Lord, because your best isn't good enough, but with God, he can handle not your best. He can handle your selfish tendencies. He can handle it, right? He can handle the fact that you're adulterous, you'll betray him, you'll turn your back on him, you'll spit in his face, you know what I mean? And the world can't handle it, nor should they have to, hence why God was never intending for that. And then you love thy neighbor as thyself. So whatever you think you're deserving of, you give that to everybody else. You give that to everybody else. Not just, that's why it's like your neighbor. Your neighbor isn't your best friend. Your neighbor isn't your family. Your neighbor isn't your boyfriend or something, your girlfriend. Your neighbor is just your neighbor. They're essentially your acquaintance. And God is saying, love them like the love you deserve. But we live in a world, like I keep saying, not me and the lovey-doveys again, that we live in a world where what was I going to say? Hold on, guys, I'm distracted. We live in a world where we care more about feeling loved than we do loving. I feel like crying, you guys. I'm so emotional. I don't know why. I'm never normally this emotional while I'm ovulating. I'm usually like feeling, fierce and fabulous and confident. And I just feel like a little pool of just tears and just so sensitive at the moment. And this is how the Lord be getting me, because he's the only one who can get me like this. And it's just so annoying. You know what I mean? But again, it's because he loves me and he's like, listen, this is the only way I'm going to be able to answer the questions you're asking me at the moment. And that's why I'm getting emotional, because it's making sense. And he's actually answering my prayers. He's actually answering my questions. And again, he's fighting for me more than I have the ability to fight for myself. And that's the thing that humbles me about God constantly, and why I'm always in here jumping in his defense, why I put myself out there, because I'm like, wow, God genuinely loves me more than I love myself. Like, he's fighting so hard. I'm like, God, why do you bother? Like, I ask him these questions. Listen, guys, I'm trying to share all this stuff with you all because I'm really trying to get us away from this thing we do as humans, which is hiding from the uncomfortable thing. But I get it. We live in a loveless world, in a selfish world, and that's my point. That's why Jesus had to come and do what he did, and in all the things he did, he was doing things that were countercultural. Again, it's like I was saying about the Spider-Verse movies and how Miles Morales is the story we're watching, and it's funny that of all the multiverses, that was the universe that was in question, and he was the version of Spider-Man that was at the forefront. I want to be clear, guys. I don't know. There's a lot of things about that movie, how it came about, and some of the things that happened in it that I'm not keen on. The Spider-Verse movies in general. I'm not a general fan of any of the stuff to do with Hollywood, but like the points that I'm bringing up, those are the important fixed focal points. But there's a lot that was wrong. They didn't treat the writers well, and I hope that those writers either get compensated or they never come back to that. If they never come out with another movie, although I really wanted to see the next one, I'm okay with that because I'd care more that these people are looked after. And if they're being taken advantage of, the hell, I don't want to watch the movie. I don't want to see the movie. Look after the people making this magic happen. I'm not in the favor of supporting anything just for the sake of. Which again is a very worldly thing. You know, in the world, people will like separate the art from the artist because you selfishly don't want to have to give up the art. So you want to separate it from the artist, even though the art came from the artist. That's a reflection of who they are. That's a reflection of their character. It's a reflection of their personality. And this is what I'm saying about Christ. You know, it's everything that he does and how he behaves, and everything with God. It's about his character. And our character as humans is we are inherently selfish. We want to believe. We want to go around the world. And because again, it's nice to think of ourselves as a good person. It's nice to think, oh, well, I do good. I don't try to hurt anyone. That's nice. That feels nice. And as you guys know, I talk about this all the time. Our feelings are not necessarily the truth. And this is why I feel comfortable coming to the Lord, because I don't have to try and convince God. Like, I'm not telling God that my feelings are the truth. I'm just telling God my feelings. In this world, we treat our feelings like your truth, my truth, their truth. There's just the truth. And I can be feeling a way that doesn't align with the truth or isn't what the truth is. That's called being a human. And that's why we put our trust in God. You know what I'm saying? And that's why, again, Jesus had to be God, because otherwise he would have been overcome with his feelings. Feelings are like the most unhelpful thing in this life. When I tell you guys, it's so unhelpful, especially to play the game or any game well, because if you can't stay focused, right? It's like, and it's not just a game, it's just winning in life. There's times where you have to be able to just shut off your feelings or have them under control. It's like with courage, which the Bible talks about, you know, Joshua 1, when the people, the generation that's actually going to make it to the promised land, God says, be strong and courageous. Being courageous doesn't mean that you don't have fear. You have fear. It's doing something while the fear is still present. It's about being able to stay focused despite how you're feeling, to continue with what you need to do despite how you're feeling. That's what real courage is. And that's why I think I'm so proud of myself, I'll be honest, with the fact that I come on here and I say the things that I do, and I literally bear my heart out in such an unloving, unjust, unforgiving, judgmental, hateful, divisive world, because I am putting myself out to the slaughter for the majority of the people, and I don't think it's worth it. But what I will say is there's a greater thing in my head happening of like, but on a greater level, I have every faith in God that he is who he says he is, because I know from my experience in my relationship with him that he is a man of his character. He's not a man that he shall lie, like the Bible says. He'll never leave me nor forsake me. God will do exceedingly and abundantly above anything I can ask or think. You know, God's promises are yes and amen. All things work together for good for those who are called according to his purpose. You know, God is allowing everything that's happened because he knows what he's doing to bring us to an expected end. He knows how we are. He knows who we are. He knows all the options. And I just have to trust him and have faith. And that's why for me, Jesus is God. And Jesus is just God in the third dimension. It's like, if I was you guys, that's why when people try to bring up the law and Jesus and Christians, or like, well, I do this, it's like, you missed the point. Jesus is like, if you guys were to behave as love behaves, this is what it would look like. The laws, I told you, it's all to do with love. Like I said this to you guys. That's why it doesn't surprise me. I had all of this, as I mentioned in the previous video, how I was listening to this song, and it's just literally the most beautiful song I've ever heard in my life. And I would always hear this song and I could never find it throughout my life. And I finally found it yesterday. And this is what led to all of this, because I had to go and listen to it when I was private with the Lord, because I just had a feeling it was going to just hit me, like it was going to wind me. And it did. And I never knew, because it sounds really sad, the music itself. But the song is actually about love. Can you imagine? And I was just like, wow, I've never heard such a beautiful song in my life. And this is why I'm so emotional, to be honest, because I was just like, whoa, I didn't expect that. Because had I known that that's what it was about, I would not have listened to it. Well, like, this is what God has always been focusing on. Like, meanwhile, God is giving all the instructions, right, to Moses. This is what you guys are going to do. You're out of Egypt. We're headed to the promised land. Here's all the rules. Here's how you guys are going to live, because he's trying to give them the tools to live well. Meanwhile, because he's taking too long, what do Moses' generation of people do? Oh my gosh, Moses is taking forever. Let's just build our own calf, our own golden calf. And God isn't doing things the way that I want it. He's not following my terms and conditions of my love. And therefore, I'm taking my love somewhere else. I'm going to make my own God. That's us as humans. And then so when he's giving us these laws, he's trying to teach us how to love. He's trying to teach us how to be loving, right? That's why Jesus said, I came to with the gospel of good news, that those laws weren't about making you feel better. That's a selfish desire. It was to make you actually better, to make you people of character, so that because the only way you guys win is through love. That's why even to this day, it's a truth that people believe in, that love always wins. It's because, yeah, of course love wins, because God wins, because God is love. And that's why God will always have the last laugh. And that's why if Jesus defeated death, he could only be God. You know, I remember, and I mention this all the time because it's, again, the purity of how God created everything. I had a class, I was teaching religious studies at this school, and I had 2 year 3 classes and 2 year 5 classes. So I'm dealing with 6-year-olds and 9-year-olds. Pretty much 6 and 7-year-olds and like 8 and 9-year-olds. Oh my goodness me. And we were talking about the 10 commandments, sorry. And this, again, what God is giving to the people while they're making other gods. And I said to the kids, and by the way, this was a Christian school where like the parents had chosen this school with the intent that they were learning things in line with Christianity, if you know what I mean. So I wasn't like telling them what to believe, but I could, like, if they asked me, I was able to say what my religion is. But then also they all could have all their religions of wherever they came from. And here comes the sun. I already know exactly what time it is. It's 12 o'clock. I know the sun so well from just... so many nights, just days spent with the Lord alone and just watching the sun move around. I love watching it and like walking around and catching where the sun is and knowing where north, east, south. Anyway, so these kids, I said to them, right, I was like, let's envision, what if, I just threw out a question. Right? I was like, what if the 10 commandments are just about ways that we look after people, like we show that we're caring, you know, because it's not nice if somebody kills somebody because you don't know how their family would feel. That wouldn't be very nice. Or if you steal something from something, you know what I mean? And that's what I threw that out. When I tell you, when I said that, my goodness, did this room erupt. These classrooms erupt with these kids sharing stories of how upset they were the time that they accidentally left the dog in the car, and then the dog was stolen by somebody else, and they were distraught. And this is the youngest group. So this is like 6, 5 and 6-year-olds, 6 and 7-year-olds, right? One other person talking about, how so-and-so died, and it was the worst thing. They've got somebody in their life dying of cancer. Like, it was so sad and so deep. I didn't expect that. I was just really trying to say, I was thinking, how can I make this relevant to kids? Because that was the topic, because we had to discuss different religions, right? So in all the religions, I would throw out questions like that. You know what I mean? And I tried to be fair because, especially me as a teacher, but also me as a person, I think we should fairly assess every different option. Hence why I make these series like the one I'm making now, where I present all why I disagree with all the other versions of other things, because I've genuinely given them a chance. Like, I've genuinely bought my Quran, I've bought my this, I've got the Book of Mormon, I've tried it out. I've tried out science, I studied it. I give everything a chance. So I try to do the same with them. But yeah, so when they erupted, one kid was like, yeah, and then this is kids as well. They just start saying everything. One of them was like, yeah, my dad cheated on my mom cheated on my dad, and it ruined the family. And like hearing their responses and like everything they had to say, it really struck a chord within me to show what I'm saying to you guys is so overwhelmingly true, that like it is all about love. It is about love, because when you look at all those things, when God says you shall have no other gods before me, I'm the only God of love and the one true living God. When with me you have life, and I will pour that into you, because without me you're not going to pour out life, you're going to pour out death. You're going to choose death every time. You're not going to be able to defeat death. When Jesus defeated death and was resurrected, it was like, it wasn't just that he came back to life, it's that death had no hold over him. Death had no way as he never chose it. It had no rights to him. So he can't die. He can't die because he's living, because he chose life. He chose life every single time. He chose life because he knew how to, because he was God. And so when I was like listening to these kids, and when I said that, I didn't even know what I had said. And it was the way they were ready to say it, and the way that they had all had stories. And I mean, when I tell you, that was like the lot, I felt bad for the teacher after that, because they had to go. What we used to do is, like, I used to swap with the PE teacher. So they would have, one class would have PE, and the other class of the same year group would have religious studies with me, and then me and the PE teacher would swap. So then my class would go and have, and then, just swap around like that. And I used to feel for him. But then again, they had a lot of energy. They're probably a lot more engaged, but maybe, I don't know. But I had to just wrap up the conversation, because they were just wanting to tell me every story. Everybody had a story. Everybody was engaged. And it was the one time I actually had the entire class fully engaged in wanting to talk. Like, every single kid of every single kind of background, every type of personality. As soon as I posed this question, we were looking at them like, don't you think this is about just us being considerate and caring to each other? I feel like, what do we think about that? And throwing that out to a bunch of 5, 6, and 7-year-olds. And because I was trying to make it less about focusing on a religion and more about, like, just thinking, and just because that's what we were doing, right? We did Judaism, we did Islam, we did a lot of things. We covered all of it. This is what we do, and it was just incredible. That class of kids, by the way, I stopped doing that job at the end of 2020. And my gosh, that broke my heart, because those kids that I got to work with in that were just so unbelievably precious. It's unbelievable. One of the kids, this guy, this little boy, just stood up one day. This is the stuff that gets to me, you guys, and why I have so much fury towards the older generations and towards the adult population. This kid is really talkative, and he never stopped talking. Love it, because that was me, bro. Stands up and he's like, "Miss," he's like, "Miss," and he goes, "Miss, do you love us as much as we love you?" And I was like, oh my gosh, you guys, I couldn't believe it. And I'd only been at the school for a couple of weeks. They'd been having changing of teachers constantly, because they were very rowdy. But the thing is, I can handle these types of situations. So I love it. I love to see that they have things to say. You just got to direct the ship. So because I knew he was going to be talkative, I would always give him responsibilities that required talking, you know what I mean? Or whatever. And like whatever, because he liked to do it. And also the class responded well to him because he was liked by everybody. And like it worked out. Like, you just embrace people for who they are. It's part of love itself. Like oftentimes people ask me like, why, how comes I'm good with kids? And I'm like, because I just care about them. I think about like, what do they deserve? I think about, if I was in their position, what would I want? What would be the best for me? You know what I mean? How would I feel valued? How would I feel cared for? That's all that I do. I just happen to then have the subjects that they have to learn. And those things are almost secondary, because if I don't have the first part, I'm not going to be successful at the second part either. And like, this is what I'm saying about it all. Like, where it's just like, we miss the point. And so when Jesus doesn't come in as this big Messiah that the Hebrews are looking for, they're looking for this Messiah. Again, it was their selfish thing. They're like, well, we want somebody who's going to take down the Roman Empire, like, for us, because we're under Herod right now and we don't like it. So we're not going to acknowledge you as a Messiah. To this day, that was their own idea. Jesus like, yeah, but what you don't understand is the reason you guys are all in this situation. If he really wanted to really crush them, and be honest, the reason why, and again, guys, I talk about this in my full Bible summary playlist, so you can go and check that out. The reason why you guys are in this situation is because the collective sum of all of your free will up until now as people of Israel has been that you guys consistently remain divided. You don't understand the point of the scriptures. You run off with other gods. You then become I came to give you power. Sorry guys, it's like something in my eye and I just don't know what it is. I came to give you power. God gave you dominion, and what have you used that for? You've used that to stay divided. And while you've been divided, your enemy has been united. And because at least your enemy was united while you were divided, your enemy has come over you. And according to the historical text, the Roman Empire saw that the people of Israel had no sense of civilized, like they were going at each other. They were divided. So they were like, oh, we need to help them to stay in track. And actually, this is the perfect way. And again, always it happened throughout the empires, which you'll see in like I said, in my Bible playlist, the 400 years between the Old and New Testament, which is all historical, not biblical, by the way. But even in history itself, historically, when people took over places, they turned the people that they found of those lands into their slaves. That's why, again, you didn't learn anything from before, because if they'd learned anything from the Old Testament, right, which they would have had by the point of the New Testament, right, the old scriptures, they would remember that the reason why the people ended up enslaved in Egypt in the first place is because Pharaoh was so intimidated by Joseph, who had saved Egypt and all these places, who was so favored by the previous Pharaoh, and therefore his people had become massively successful, that in order for the people of God, for people of Israel not to be a threat, he made them into slaves in his kingdom. The same thing that was happening to the people of Israel. So then they're just like, oh, Jesus, come and free us. It's like, what's the point of freeing you if you're going to go right back to it? What's the point of freeing you if you're going to go right back to it? What's the point of helping you with what you're asking for if tomorrow you're going to do the same thing? I've come to do what you people are never going to do. You are never going to do it. You're always going to go back to this. And you're so hard-headed, right, about it. And because you're in pride, because you're selfish as well. So this is why it makes perfect sense to me, all of this. You don't get it. You think that the scriptures are there. Let's say Christians are today. You think that the Bible's been written to make you feel good about yourself, to make you feel better. You think that God is loving. What loving person wants to sit on their high horse looking down at somebody as some kind of peasant? That's giving demonic. That's giving evil. That's not nice. That's not nice. If you really were so loving, you'd want to see everybody win together. You'd want everybody to feel seen and heard. You'd want to understand everyone. You want everyone to feel loved and valued. You want everybody to thrive. You want everybody to win. That's what you would do if you were truly so loving. That's why even people, you guys will hear, I don't refer to myself in any of these terms like I'm an empath. And I'm like one of those people I don't say that. I don't say that because we should all be. And again, even a lot of people who are like that, they have their terms and conditions as well. I'm an empath. It's like, oh yeah? Are you going to turn around and go to somebody like Jeffrey Epstein and find empathy for him? Oh no, well that's different. Oh, so there is a difference. And you get to dictate it because you get to play judge and jury. Because surely, maybe he has a reason. Maybe that's all he knew. Maybe that's what he was trained. Or he did even. Maybe that's all they know. Is your empathy there? Oh, your empathy is not there. So you are playing judge and jury and you are playing God. Exactly. And every time we do as humans, it always ends up poorly and we always end up in death. So we take ourselves there. So anyways, guys, I hope you guys can understand what I'm saying. I did another video like literally months ago, maybe even over a year at this point, where I was talking about how Jesus is just God in the third dimension. Like, this is what it would look like if God were a human. That's how I look at it. I feel like we're kind of overthinking it. We're like, but how can he be God? And he can, well, because God breathed in life. God breathed life into us. The only reason we're living is because of the breath of life of God is in us. The spirit, the word spirit for Holy Spirit can also be like the breath of God. You know what I mean? Like he can just, instead of a human man, creating a child with Eve, right? He could just be like with Mary. I mean, he didn't even have to use Mary's. I just think it's fascinating. I was thinking about this the other day about how cool it is that as a woman I could like be a surrogate, because I've thought about that, because I would like to actually experience pregnancy. I just don't want to have any babies. I don't want to bring them into this world. This world sucks. So maybe I should become a surrogate, because low-key I can just get paid and I can just like go through the experience of being pregnant. And I just think it's so cool as a woman we can actually even do that. That like our body is so well built by God that somebody else's egg and sperm can come together and my body can still host said child. That's so freaking cool. I think that's incredible. I think that's so cool that we can do that. You know what I'm saying? Why did I mention that? Why on earth did I even mention? Oh, Mary. So yeah, God could just have created his own, because he's the creator anyway. He could have created his own embryo. We don't really know. I know that he definitely didn't. He definitely used Mary's DNA, because Jesus is, the tribe of Judah, line of the tribe of Judah, which is of course the tribe that David is from, which is of course the tribe that Mary is from. So that was written that had to be the way it had to be. Sorry, that is literally my stomach, like, I don't know, growling or something. And yeah, so that's interesting. And so he's then like, I'm going to put myself here and I'm going to just, it's like diluting himself down, like in our dimension. It's like, it's not possible for us in the third dimension to fully understand God. So a lot of things he does, it's to help give us wisdom. It's like ways of thinking of the upper dimensions, right? With images and with things. That's why I believe in when the Bible talks about, and Solomon was the wealthiest and the wisest in all the land, it talks about how he knew of all the animals and plants. Because I said to you guys, I think you learn so much observing the animals and the plants. You know what I mean? You learn so much observing the animals and the plants. And I was thinking, and like being just out in nature, like even cats. You guys know I hate cats, right? I hate cats. I hate spiders and snakes. Those three animals, never trust. Well, they're not animals, but never trust, never nothing, right? And there's something about cats and spiders that we have in common. And it gives me wisdom about life and living, right? Because I always see them because I'm always up at the hours where everybody else is asleep. So those are the hours where they feel safe. And it's the same reason I'm awake, because I feel safe as well. I feel like I can put my walls down. I can like actually be at peace because there's like little to no things I have to be being scared to like protect myself from, or worry about, or defend myself, or have all these thousands of of defenses up. You know what I mean? I can just kind of exist and just have a bit of moment of peace. It's the same with like the spiders. Of course, I'm the one who always sees them, because when I'm awake and I can see it in the house, of course I can get rid of it. I'm a human. But when I'm asleep and when we're asleep, that's when they can. Guys, I was falling asleep. I wasn't actually asleep. Like this happened to me the end of last year, and it's funny because I always notice the spiders at night, like even outside my front door. When I'm going out for my walks, I'll see the exact same spiders I saw. They'll come out and hang out late at night. And it's funny because they obviously think no one's coming out. By the time I come back, they've hidden away again because the humans are there. But throughout the day, they're not there. And it's the same spiders. Like, it's so funny. And the other day when I was falling asleep, but I wasn't quite asleep, the spider must have thought I was asleep. It crawled at my face, you guys. At my face. Where have you been? Because I haven't seen you. And multiple of them are coming out because they all do the great exodus at the end of autumn. So I hate it. Because then the spiders all leave. Because again, they don't want to be outside in the heat like me. They want to be inside. So they come and hide inside. They're more inside during the summer. When it's the winter, they don't mind being out there again. It's quite funny because we're the same. This is what I'm saying about all this wisdom. Is just teaching me like about just life and how things operate and how different things do things in different for different ways and different reasons. You know what I mean? And all of this. And I'm just learning things. Like I said, I'm there with the bees. And I'm looking at the bees. I'm like, wow, look at their faith. They just come out, they come flying, they look for the flowers. I'll be sitting there like in the spring amongst the flowers and just enjoying the spring days. And I'll be sitting on the grass. And then I just sit there and I watch the bees coming along, and they just trust that if I get out and I fly for the day, I'm going to find flowers somewhere, because God delivers flowers, like the spiders. I can come out safely at night or when people are asleep, like cats. That's why we're looking at each other, because they're looking at me like, oh, you people. Especially because we as humans, we're so quick, like I said, to spider, we're a risk. We can hurt them. To a spider, to pets, we feel so entitled to touch them however we want to. Like how I feel like is my experience with humans. People just touch my face. Oh, you got such nice cheeks, and put their grubby old ass adult hands on my face that I work so hard to keep my skin in check, right? And you're just putting your hands on my face. Oh, you're so cute, or just grabbing me on my body, doing whatever. Like, people feel so comfortable to grab you. I feel like part of the reason the cats are looking at me sideways and I'm looking at them sideways is like, they're like, oh no, you're going to be another human that's going to come over and just start stroking me and start touching me and just start like, this is my moment. This is my time to have a break from that. This is how I feel. This is like, I don't want to be anyone to talk to me. I don't want to talk to anybody but the Lord, because this is my time. This is my time. So I get where they're coming from. And I get what they're teaching me about humans, and it's teaching me about how our impact is on everything around us, even the animals. That's why I was getting so upset for the sake of them cutting the trees down, because I'm like, give the animals somewhere to live. Leave them a habitat. Before, like in the very early stages of the foundation of the world, from a historical point, that people used to believe that everything was about relationships. Our life, the very first original religion, they believed that us living, right, that living was about living, and our focus of living was to live in harmony with each other and with nature. It's only after the freaking watcher angels and humans selfishly came together, right, to form children, which again, they came down into human form. So similar to Christ, they switched into human form so they could procreate with the women. So again, it's another example of a similar thing God can do. Do you think if they can do that, if God can't do the same thing? Like, they come down, and then we go from a time where we lived with the animals in unison and as a team, to where now we just use them for whatever we want, whenever we want, and not in a respectful way. Not like we kill an animal and we thank God for preparing the animals, and we make sure that we use all the different parts of the animal that we killed, and we eat within our means, and we're not over consuming, that kind of thing. Now we're like, oh, I'm going to kill this animal, I'm going to cut this part off of a elephant's tusk just so I can show off that I went hunting in Africa and I hurt an elephant, or like things they do with the sharks, so they're just cutting off the fins because that's the only part they want, and then just throwing them back in the ocean. It's like, that is what we've become, and a large part of that is because of what we did with the Watcher angels, because again, they were never supposed to procreate with us, because it was like putting imperfect, because they're not perfect, the angels, only God is. It's putting an imperfect, like high level of spiritual power in imperfect humans. And this is what created the world we're living in. This is why sometimes God has to intervene massively, because he's like, if I don't intervene, you people are screwed. If he didn't send the flood, it's not just like, oh, God was so angry and God of wrath. He's like, no, guys, here's the funny thing. If I don't intervene, you are screwed. If I don't intervene, you are screwed. I'm intervening for your sake. I'm intervening for your sake, not because I'm out here enjoying having, being this tyrant. Because if I don't, you guys are taking, sometimes I need to pull you guys back out from yourselves. Anyways, guys, I'm going to leave that there. There's so much more to talk about. I don't know where we're going next, honestly. I don't know. Me and the Lord are just somewhere else, and I'm just in another place right now, and I just don't want to have to come back down to earth for anything. And so I'm just trying to stay there with God. I'm like, God, can we just stay here? Let's just stay here for a minute. You know what I mean? Let's just stay here. And so I'm grateful that I was supposed to be actually working today, and it got cancelled, if you can imagine. What I was, well, not actually, what I was supposed to be doing today got cancelled. So now I still have work to do, but I can do it in my own timing. And I feel like God did on purpose. I said this yesterday. I was like, I don't know why God, before all of this revelation of the multiverse happened, I said to you guys, for some reason, God has freed my schedule for the next 2 days. And I don't know why, because I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing with my time at all. And I was horrified at the idea. And next thing you know, within hours of me saying that, I'm just out there with the Lord, and I'm just in the heavenlies. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I feel so overwhelmed with emotion. I feel so overwhelmed with thought. So I feel like there's going to be a whole bunch of videos in the next 2 days, and just like a lot of thinking. Like, I'm going to need to go on a walk soon. I want to go before sunset, ideally. And I just need to be there with the Lord, and I just want to stay there, and I don't want to have to come back down to earth. I just want to be able to be there and just embrace, because it's just the most beautiful thing ever. Because you're like in the perfect. That's why I wasn't surprised that all of this happened when I was listening to this beautiful song. It's talking about love. It was a song about love, and I was just like, no wonder, because that's what I'm feeling, and I'm just feeling it, and it's just just be off with the Lord. That's what I'm saying. Anyways, you guys, being here is so boring in this world. In this world, in this society, it's the ghetto, because I'd be out there with the Lord, I'd be here with God in the heavenlies, and then I have to like come back down here and live with myself and live with the other humans. So anyways, you guys, if life's a game, let's play to win. I hope you're enjoying this, and I hope this is helpful, and I hope I'm making sense to somebody, because I just feel like, God, no one's talking about this stuff. So again, it brings me back to, what's the point in any of this? Why are we here? Why this universe? But I'm like, it's because this is the universe where this is the canon event where Jesus, he dies, and where humans win. So even if it doesn't make sense to me, even if it's excruciating, like, we're actually living in the best case scenario, which is the most humbling thing, and what should point us not to despair, like what I'm feeling, but to faith, to be like, thank God for God, and oh my gosh, he must exist, because that's the only way anything good is happening. And the Bible even says every good and perfect gift comes from the Lord. Anyways, you guys, if life's a game, it's play to win. Everything's linked in the description box below, so go and check it out, and you'll be able to find me the whole entire series. It's so many parts we've been into. But yeah, I'm tired. Oh, it's so tiring. I barely slept as well, because it's just been there with the Lord, and then my dreams are just insane. Anyways, if life's a game, it's play to win. God bless you all. God loves you. I love you. And I'll see you in my next one. Goodbye.